Hey everyone, thank you for logging in today for our webinar. We're going to be talking about SEO in the industrial B2B space. We think it's important to kind of cover this with groups because a lot of times external SEO experts don't have a lot of strong domain knowledge and have a hard time really helping companies achieve their SEO goals. And so we're going to give you some tools, tips, and tricks to kind of do it yourself and at least give an SEO expert a head start. My name is Oliver Diaz. I'm the CEO of Revvnue, and I'm here with Aubrey Sindelar, who's one of our SEO and marketing strategists.
Thanks, Oliver. Yeah, we're really excited about launching this. We definitely see areas for growth in SEO in industrial B2B specifically, just because he was mentioning like can be very nicheified and kind of difficult to manage. And so we wanted to kind of help you all along with this. So whether you're a CEO or a marketing manager, or even if you are kind of just a small business owner with a smaller team and want to just DIY this, we want to kind of give you perspective on this to be able to do what you can in the search engine optimization space for your business. So excited to share some of our tips with you today.
So today we're going to be just covering one sort of part of the process, which is understanding SEO. This is a series. And so tune in next time when we're going to get into keyword research, how to analyze your competition, and then finally implementing and optimizing your site. And so I think to kind of kick things off, Aubrey and I thought we would sort of discuss on a high level and also a deeper level some of the key terms that you guys need to know for SEOing and what will help you in your own research and sort of edification online, because I'm sure you guys will Google and maybe have Googled a lot of stuff about SEOing your site. We're going to give you a little bit more deeper knowledge as well as sort of address it on a high level.
Perfect. SEOing is kind of an Oliverism. It's not a technical term, but SEO is search engine optimization, and you can turn it into a verb if you want to.
Yes, and it is a verb. It takes a lot of doing. So without any ado, let's go ahead and kind of bring up that list of terms. So I'm sorry, but before we do that, we'd really like to know a little bit more about what you guys are most interested in tackling with SEO, what challenges you guys face specifically. Fill out the form and the poll on your screen and let us know. That's going to help us hone in a little bit better on how to address your challenges in the rest of our series. And if we can, we'll try and address those while we're presenting. Might be a little bit tough, but just know that if we don't address those in the actual presentation or in the chat, we'll follow up afterwards if you request it. So first thing we're going to do is kind of go over some important terms. Aubrey is going to define them more from a technical perspective. Then I'm going to provide some additional details as to what it really means to you as a small business or marketing professional trying to make sense of this, especially in your space. So why don't you go ahead and kick it off, Aubrey?
Perfect. So SEO, which is the title of our talk today, is just an acronym for search engine optimization. Opposed to that is SEM, which is search engine marketing. And so basically the difference between that is SEO is just optimizing your site itself, and marketing is kind of putting spin behind it. Both are trying to get to the front page of Google right in front of everyone. And marketing is just doing that with money, while optimization is doing that with just optimizing content.
Yeah, if you ever do a search on Google and you see someone at the top and there's like a little word ad next to it, that means someone's paying for that spot. And the idea is, if you haven't been able to get traction on SEO, or if there's a specific keyword or specific promotion, or just in general, you want to kind of short circuit the whole SEO process, you can pay to be at the top of the search engines, right? So early on, if you guys are still working on your SEO, it takes a few months to get any traction. You can kind of skip and skip to the end and get to the top of search engines, but you have to pay for it. It varies depending on the competition, but it can get as high as $40 per click. But the nice thing is you only have to pay for people that actually click on, or more, right? It can go much higher than that, but you only have to pay for the people that actually click on the ad.
So if you're feeling especially petty, you can Google search something from your competitor and click on their ads and charge them a couple bucks and feel like you've accomplished something that day.
Yeah, we certainly don't advocate for that, but there is that. Why don't you talk a little bit about SERP or SERP?
Sure. So SERP, if you see that written in any documentation, just means search engine result page. So that's just the page that you find when you search pretty much anything. I'm sure you see it daily in what you do. It's pretty straightforward. Oliver, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a deceptively simple thing to talk about. It's like a snapshot of whatever people see when they do a search, the first thing that they see. And the reason why I think it's worth talking about here a little bit is because it relates to the meta tags on your site. What's presented on the search engines isn't something that you often have clear visibility into because it's sort of on the back end, the programmatic side of the site. We'll dive into that a little bit. But also, I think it's important to talk about the different types of content that are found and presented on the internet these days. It's not just websites and web pages, it's videos, it's images, it's questions and answers, and then of course the ads that we just talked about, and also a marketplace. So, Google is serving up, and the other search engines are serving up all sorts of types of content, and on all of them are websites. So a lot of times you can sort of, again, even though it's not your website at the top of search engines, people can find you very quickly on the first page if you have a video that's very compelling and it's on YouTube, which obviously is part of Google. So they're going to have, they're going to be at the top of search as well. Or questions and answers. If you guys run FAQs on your websites, that's a really powerful way. If Google has crawled that and it's in the right format, that it can serve up answers to specific questions, buying questions that people are having. So I think that one's a deceptively important sort of term to understand and dive into.
Perfect. So the next one we have is page ranking. So it's another one you're likely pretty familiar with, but basically Google crawls the entire internet and boosts the content that they think is most useful for certain searches. So front page is the top 10 that Google decides, and then it just kind of goes on from there. Most likely the majority or the entire business is going to be the transaction is going to have transactions through that front page. Like people don't usually go to page 5 or page 6 to deal with stuff. So the goal for SEO is always going to be just getting to that front page and being in that top 10 level.
Yeah, so if you're on the first page, your page ranking is 1. If you're on the second page, your page ranking is 2.
Or your page ranking is going to be 11 on that second page.
Yeah.
1 to 10.
So if you're number 11 on search engines for a certain keyword, that's going to be the first one on the second page. And obviously, like Aubrey said, everyone's aiming to be on the first page, which is a really great place to be for a couple reasons. Most of the time when people are searching for a solution to their problem in the B2B space, they're doing research and they're kind of comparing and contrasting a lot of different providers. And so they're doing research and they're going to go to between 7 and 10 or 15 different companies, and they're going to compare them. So being on that first page means that you're one of the first people that they're going to kind of do research on. And then the next sort of keyword is really part and parcel to that, which is remarketing. Now, remarketing is a part of SEM, and essentially that's a paid ad that gets served up after someone comes to your website. And so you can imagine people doing research for a solution. They're going to all these different pages. If you can follow them around on the internet while they're researching and while they're digging in a little bit more with a display ad, it really helps you become top of mind. That's a really important trick and really helps improve your ROI, your investment on SEO and SEM in general is remarketing. So let's talk about keywords and key phrases. Everybody thinks they know what this is about, and I think everybody does on a surface level, but I think there's a little bit more to unpack there, especially from a strategic perspective.
Yeah, so for keywords and key phrases, it's basically just making sure that what people are searching for is included on your site. So we'll talk in the future about doing keyword research, but it's basically just making sure that your site is optimized for what people are searching and putting keywords that you've researched across your site.
And, it sounds simple. And, if you're a widget salesman or if you sell widgets, then you think, oh, I just need to be number 1 for widgets. And really the case is such that people might not necessarily even know what to search for, or they might not be as familiar with your solution enough to sort of have the right phrase, or maybe they're searching for a solution that they want to solve on their own that your product or service solves for them. So understanding their pain, we'll talk about a little bit more, the customer's journey really plays a big role in terms of the key phrases. A lot of industrial B2B groups name their products after things that have more broader sort of uses and terms, like, a Triton product or something like that. They name their products after things that are more relatable. And what happens is they optimize their site for that keyword. So people searching for, Greek mythology will come to their, I guess Triton would be Roman mythology, would be coming to their site, or they would be ranking for that keyword. Or Google might not even understand, what your page is about, just because it has keywords that it doesn't normally associate with the context of what you're doing. So the phrasing and the keywords is something that we have a whole segment that we're going to be talking about. And I just want to leave with the fact that understanding, again, the questions that people are asking, the buying questions, is going to be really key. And from there, you can really get a lot of traction. But anyway, domain authority.
Domain authority. So for the way that I'd best describe this one is something we say as marketers quite often, but it's a pretty good explanation for this, is that rising tides raise all ships. So Google will essentially give you better credit or kind of value to your site if you do certain things that Google deems to be a good, valuable website. So that can be anything from site speed to who's linking back to your site, to how big your site is, to how many keywords your site has on it, and details like that. And so there's kind of ways to measure those domain authority boosting tactics, and just spending your time on different things that might affect that score, essentially, that Google gives you.
Yeah, it's basically kind of like how much street cred Google wants to give you and other sites. And it's important for the next topic as well, which is backlinks. And all backlinks is other people that link back to you. And you really want to make sure that the people linking back to you have a high sort of domain authority, because then Google sort of elevates you on the search engines as well. So a lot of back in the day, a lot of people used to just sprout up pages linking back to their homepage, because any sort of backlinks would work. And Google got really smart about that. And now you really want to make sure that you scan for any sort of bad domain authority sites that link back to you, because that can actually hurt you. And it does happen even without you guys maybe knowing about it. And we'll show you some tools to kind of check for those. And then finally, SEO landing page. This is something that is really critical and understanding and getting into, because you can't boil an ocean a lot of times with SEO. We want to think about ways to strategically get traction with certain keywords without having to optimize the entire site for all the keywords. Aubrey, you want to talk about that a little bit more?
Sure. So SEO landing pages are basically a way to get keywords onto your site that won't necessarily affect your main site. So if you are trying to rank for a certain keyword, but it doesn't necessarily fit with your current site structure, maybe you just have your homepage and then an about page and some of your services, but you're trying to rank for some asking a certain question or solving a really specific solution. It's just a page that's built out with just a keyword in mind, that are really trying to bring people in through SEO and convert them within that one page.
Yeah. And, I think it's really important, because you might be a national company, but you want to make sure that anyone types in, such and such service near me, whether that's Texas, where we are, or, California, that you pop up in the search engines, because someone is going to, and that person's going to be the one that has a whole landing page dedicated to those keywords. So landing pages are used for a couple different things in SEM and SEO, but essentially it's a one-stop shop to convert someone. On the user side. On the SEO side, it's basically a page that is optimized for a very targeted group, even more targeted than normal. So it might be geographically based, it might be industry based. So maybe you have a solution that is importantly to deploy for multiple industries. By creating an SEO landing page for each one, and it's almost like its own little microsite that talks about all the features, all the products, whatever you're sort of talking about with the rest of the site. You want it all to kind of be there with a specific CTA or a way to convert people that for that specific audience.
And for the specific keyword, so you're bringing in people for that goal.
So let's talk about the next set of keywords is very much based around the user, I think, and except for meta tags. But why don't we talk about intent and dwell time a little bit?
Perfect. Yeah, those kind of go hand in hand a bit. I think intent is best described by just like empathizing with whoever is searching for your services, just understanding where they are in the process, understanding just what they're looking for at that given point. Like if they're focusing on if they're about to convert or if they're just in that research phase, and making sure that your content really fits to wherever they are. It's easy to just kind of put out your information and kind of be really business focused in whatever content you create or pages you build, but really taking the time to understand the intent and empathizing with that potential customer client is kind of the importance with this.
Yeah, and some of the tools that we're going to be sharing with you kind of will automatically tell you if you have a page that is more educational or more selling. And the idea is you want to make sure you match the page's content up with the intent of the user. So if someone just wants to get educated, you don't want to try and sell them on that page. You want to be you want to be a little bit more top funnel. But if someone does want to kind of sell or get sold to, then you want the copy to be a little bit different. And so understanding the intent behind it's especially around keywords and key phrases really helps you understand the type of content that will be served up. And not only help with Google in terms of matching the keywords up with the right content, but also helping you convert those people and ultimately, make everything worthwhile in terms of SEO. And dwell time, I think, this is sort of interesting. This is how much time people spend on the site. And, in general, for a long time, websites got really heavy. People wanted people to spend a lot of time on the site. These days, especially for the B2B space, we want them to spend just enough time to kind of really get a sense for your brand, your value propositions, and why they should work with you. And then either reach out or move on to someone else that they're going to sort of compare you to in hopefully a negative light. So really, we want to try and get people to get in and out fairly quickly and then give them as many reasons as possible to reach out to you as a person, to your sales team, to your leadership team as possible. And the other thing we try and do is also gate content on the site. So everything isn't just given away and there's a chance to capture them, because capturing people is a really big challenge these days, especially for small B2B markets that can be sort of addressed with that dwell time and intent. And then of course, understanding the customer journey, which is incredibly important.
Just want to clarify that he doesn't actually mean capturing people. It means like grabbing their email and contact information. We're not trying to lock anybody up here, but just capturing their data so your sales team can reach out to them and get several touch points there.
That's absolutely right. No kidnapping is needed for SEO. And
not condoned by Revvnue.
A lot of this kind of culminates in the customer's journey, right, Aubrey?
Yeah, but like we talked about a little bit with intent, it's important to have like content and understanding of your content throughout the entire journey of the customer, especially for B2B industrial. Like these are typically like larger spends for these people. They're not going to sit there and look at your site for 5 seconds and then convert and make the purchase like you would some sort of widget or B2C content we usually create. So understanding that you're going to have to have a lot of education to the client. You're going to have a lot of clarity for the customer about where you stack up in certain areas that they can kind of maybe report back to, making that information accessible, and also understanding what you're trying to pass off to your sales team after that conversion does happen, like where they are in that process, how close are they to closing, what do they need to know before you can close. Just having a real clear understanding of that can really help your SEO process.
Yeah, for sure. And in this space specifically, the customer isn't always one person. Sometimes it's a group of individuals. Right. And so you need to make sure that, again, with intent and dwell time and keywords and key phrases, and even with CTAs, which are call to actions, basically. Yeah. That you understand your customer's journey as a corporation, as a group of decision makers and influencers, and address them with content on the website. Because SEO, if you optimize your site for search engines, you might not be optimizing it for people and conversion. So it's a little bit of a balance, and understanding that journey is really important. And it really plays into everything. Are people asking questions to help educate themselves on their problems? are they trying to educate themselves on the right solution for their problems and they already know what the problems are? So understanding those challenges is really key, and I can't understate how important the customer's journey is. And sometimes that customer's journey involves a lot more than just SEO on your website. It's sort of more of an omni-channel approach where you have to have a strong social presence, where people might be finding you there. They might be doing some due diligence and making sure that you have some news, some press releases out there. So addressing all these things really helps across the board with SEO. You can't just hyper focus on one and not some of these other things. And really understanding the customer's journey will help you architect that sort of information sphere that customers are exposed to as they sort of eventually come to you and become your clients. So I think that kind of rounds things out. Obviously, we could talk about any one of these subjects for a really long time. We hope you guys got some kind of meaty sort of information and some deeper knowledge out of some of these very common keywords. Let's get into something a little bit more granular, which is meta tags, which is really where kind of the rubber meets the road a lot of times with SEO. And this is, Aubrey's going to get into a little bit more, but this is really how you speak to search engines specifically and to a certain degree people, but you have to talk to both, right?
I like that. It's like the phrase of you have to speak to the search engine, and that's exactly what you're doing. It's like figuring out all of the places that Google is looking and where their algorithms are like set to check. And basically going through your site and making sure that's all there. So that's a big part of what SEO is, and we're going to kind of outline what that looks like a little more technically. This is what you'll see on a search engine results page. I'm sure this is very, very familiar with anything you've searched on Google before. But these are the places that are some of the places to add the keywords that you're trying to rank for. So for this one, you can tell that see it has industrial software here and here. That means they're trying to rank for that keyword. So when someone types in industrial software, like we did here, this is what pops up. So these are some of the areas for optimization in SEO. It looks really simple, but when you're doing it throughout your whole site, it gets more complicated, especially when you have to put it into like actual content and copy.
Yeah, I think at the top of the SEO list of where to put your keywords is your domain name, right? So if you're www.industrialsoftware.com, you're already winning, right? But not everyone has the luxury of that. But it's great to think about that. We've had a couple of clients that asked us, how to, what sort of domain they should sort of buy. And almost always we try and get a keyword in there too, like the most important ones. The next one down is the title of the individual page, and that's actually in the URL. So you don't want to be, like test page 1. You want it to be industrial software as the page title, right? And then the next one down is the meta title and the meta description. And this is kind of funky because it's not typically something that you have a lot of optics on. It's sort of a black box tag in code that's set up to speak directly to the search engines, but it's what the search engines serve up. So unless you're making sure that the actual title of your page and then the meta title are sort of relational or custom for each page, you might just have the same meta title and meta description for each page and not even realize it.
Or it'll be blank, be blank and say, please fill in a meta description here. That's kind of the default for most website themes, and that just looks poor. And I think Google even trashes those.
Yeah. So just we just want to distinguish between copy on the site and the title of a page, and the meta description, which isn't seen when people come to the page, and the meta title, which isn't seen when they come to the page. And you don't have to be a developer to edit these. You just have to have the right tools on your CMS, which is a content management system. Most people are using WordPress these days, but there are a lot of other solutions out there. Just need to make sure that every page is addressed for those items that we just talked about.
We'll show you a tool at the end that makes this really easy if you're doing this more DIY. And if you're working with a developer, just mention please update my meta description with these keywords, and that should be sufficient to get them to do that.
Some other tags that are very visible to the client or to your visitors, to your audience, are the heading tags. And essentially they're ways of formatting content on your page. So, the title of, a section might be a H1, a smaller heading might be an H2, H3, H4. So designers started using these just to sort of, managing the styling across the website. But what happens is Google has identified those as key areas that it needs to sort of prioritize on for SEO. And the problem is most writers don't think to add keywords into those headers, right? So industry software is a great one, but something like features isn't very good, right? So maybe you want to do something like industrial technology features, and you want to make sure that you don't waste that space with sort of just marketing jargon, or even just a very high level, like what this is, again, features, or something high level that isn't even necessary, that just kind of organizes the information on the page. Every header H1, H2 tag is important. And there's also, behind the scenes, there's also alternate text for any image, that if someone can't see the image, if they're, can't experience the media because, maybe they can't see the image, or they're on a different type of browser, the alt tag on every image can be nested with keywords as well that can help you with SEO. So those are the main ones.
It's basically just a image title. And typically, if you upload an image, it might just be like some sort of default .jpg. But if you fill in the keyword you're trying to rank for on those, it tells Google that that's what that picture is, and it gives you that extra boost and lets Google know that they should rank you higher.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and it's especially important if you have information graphics on the site. So if you have like a visual that's a diagram or that shows stuff off, a lot of times, people can digest that information directly in Google Images or something like that, or it gets served up because the title of the JPEG is so strong and relatable to what people are searching for.
No, that's perfect. But yeah, these are more of those visual ones. And this is going to be something that if you have SEO content writers, or just content writers in general, they're writing these, or your marketing team writing white papers on your site, or blog posts, or different things like that. Having this focus and making sure keywords are peppered throughout is the top priority. Because if you're banking content, you might as well be ranking with it. Like if you've got people building things on your site, you can lose a lot if you're trying to be more marketing focused in it, not as keyword focused.
Yeah, it's really funny. Like, we've worked with a lot of groups that have great content, but all their keywords are nested in the content, and they're not in the image, they're not in the title, they're not in the heading, they're not in the meta information. And so they wonder why they're not ranking. And it's generally because of that, because Google has to kind of rip through all these sites, and it just very quickly sort of organizes it. And so top down, the URL, the page title, the header tags, that's kind of the way it organizes priority of those keywords. And so it's very important to kind of think about that as you optimize your site.
So we can hop into kind of some tools to do some of the things that we've talked about. Has been a bit of more of a high level just explanation of SEO. We can get deeper into what these tools do in the future, but I can talk through each essentially. SEMrush is a really high level tool that a lot of agencies use, or if you've got a bigger team, it's a really, really robust system that can pull a lot of the data that we've talked about, like domain authority options, or like how to even research keywords, details like that. We use it a lot here at Revvnue. Google Analytics and Google Search Console are just kind of similar ways. You pull metrics for dwell time, metrics for to understand your traffic a bit more on those as well. And then things like Revvnue and Yoast are tools to make those optimizations on your meta tags, and kind of can gamify the optimizations a bit, where it's just kind of more of a checklist, and it'll kind of scan your site like Google will as well, and kind of pull out like the fact that maybe you don't have very many keywords on that page, or your URL isn't aligned with the keyword you're going for, the key phrase you're going for. And it makes the whole process really simple. So like I mentioned before, like if you have a developer, like they can add it to your site, they likely are using a Yoast or a Rank Math. And if you're doing it DIY, you can easily learn how to do it yourself.
Yeah, for me, SEMrush is the big daddy in this space for really getting in there and really understanding your competition and your customers and what they're looking for, and the type of content, whether it's educational or a lot of the things that we do on a mechanical level are done through SEMrush. The Google Analytics and Google and SEMrush is a paid SaaS platform. But Google Analytics and Google Search Console are free, and they're also very powerful. And all these systems are meant to plug directly into your website and gather data and present it to you for action, right? And you definitely need to do it in Google Analytics and Google Search Console. It helps you plug in and make friends with Google, which is obviously the number one search engine. Yoast is a great tool that's free, and it's a plugin for most CMSs, content management systems like WordPress, that once it's loaded up, like Aubrey said, kind of gives you a lot of easy to use tools to get the fundamentals of your SEO down. Once you have the strategy, which is, I think, what we're going to be talking about in the next couple sessions, which is really key: choosing the right keywords and understanding your strategy and your competition, and then implementing them. We're going to do a whole session on implementing them. We kind of touched on it lightly here, but these are all the tools you're going to need moving forward. We wanted to kind of go through them really quick, so maybe you guys could look into them and start getting familiar with them. In our following sessions, we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive into how to use them. I think we got an example screen of Yoast on the back end, right?
Yeah, so here's an example of what Yoast looks like in WordPress. Here's like a bit of the checklist for this meta description, slug, and SEO title. So you can even see like a picture of it here. You can see as if you update it here, it shows up on the SERP page. And see, it's just you update your meta description, add some keywords, and the development isn't like some sort of complicated code where you're typing in zeros and ones. You're just putting in the wording that you want on the back end of your WordPress site. It's really user-friendly once you've kind of get the hang of it, and I'm sure there's videos to explain like how to implement it on your site, but it's a free plugin and it's pretty standard. And Rank Math is just like another version of Yoast. It's just kind of preferential.
So that's going to about wrap it up for this session. We hope you guys thought it was useful. There's a lot to kind of cover. We didn't really want to, again, boil an ocean here, but just wanted to kind of level set and give you guys some tools to start investigating. Or if you do have a third party that's doing this for you, just help them, do a better job getting your SEO and your website up in the page ranking. So, I think, for me, some key takeaways from this is think about how the search engines see you. Google and Yahoo and these search engines are essentially librarians, and all they want to do is give the right book to the right person. So someone's coming up to them and they're asking for a book on a certain subject, and you just want to make it as easy as possible for the search engine or the librarian to find you and point people in the right direction. And I think that's a good way of thinking about it. Search engines are, yes, I mean, they're algorithms and they're complicated mathematical constructs, but at the end of the day, they're built to try and serve people the right information. And so understanding what information people are looking for and providing the right information is key. And then understanding your customer's buyer's journey is super critical and super key. And it's hand in hand with the search engines. Just instead of understanding, how to help the librarian find the book, you're trying to understand what books the customers are looking for and making sure you have that book in your library. And then finally, just getting the right tools. Did you have something to add, Aubrey?
Or no, I was just agreeing. Yeah, getting the right tools and aligning just your team with what they need on that front. And we'll go into a lot more of the tools in future sessions. So kind of stay tuned, or even reach out to us at Revvnue if you have questions about this. We're excited to help with details like that, and we can give you some consultation on it as well.
Yeah, and if you'd like us to do a quick SEO audit on your website to give you some ideas of where to focus, just feel free to kind of click on the screen right now, and we'd be more than happy to kind of do that for you. Obviously, there's a lot of people that might be interested, so just give us some time to kind of process that. And I think we look forward to hopefully seeing you again for the next segment, which is where we're going to be talking a lot more about choosing the right keywords and how to do that, and how to eventually research the competition, and down the line how to implement those keywords on your site. So anything you want to close with, Aubrey, or should we go ahead and wrap up and let these folks go?
I think we should let them go. I think it's been fun to talk to y'all about stuff. Makes both Oliver and I think more about what we do on a day-to-day basis. It's fun to kind of summarize and realize the importance of it. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into more stuff, especially some of the keyword research. I think it'll be really fun. So yeah, stay tuned and looking forward to seeing y'all soon.
Take care, guys.